Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, a space for spiritual entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for anything less than their purpose. I am your host, Lauren Perlingi. After surviving a near-death experience and being declared gone for 3 minutes, I woke up with a mission to help women turn self-sabotage into self-compassion and fear into fuel. Here, we're going to dive into raw conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories designed to help you break free from old patterns, claim your voice, and build a business that lights up your soul. If you've ever felt like you don't fit the mold, you're in the right place. This is where Misfits rise into their power. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, where purpose-driven entrepreneurs turn self-sabotage into self-compassion and rise in their power. I'm your host, Lauren Perlingi. Here, we share real conversations and tools to help you create a business and life aligned with your soul. So let's dive in. And in today's episode, I have Kristin. She is a functional health and Reiki practitioner. Welcome, Kristin. I'm so happy to have you here with us this morning.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So before we started recording, I'm excited to have this conversation, but I feel like every conversation, I should say, but this particular is really important because it deals with we talk about spirituality all the time on this podcast, but we don't necessarily talk about health a lot. And I feel like with Kristin's expertise, we're going to dive into literally why things happen and root causes and, uncovering that emotional, that, physical and energetic pattern that people think are completely separate. So Kristin, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you help people?
Yes, thank you so much. So I'm a functional health and Reiki practitioner specializing in gut hormone and burnout support. And I started my journey. I was in corporate America. I was the number one nationally ranked salesperson specializing in recruiting. And in my 14 years of corporate, I did the 80-hour work weeks. And then with that, I went to doctor after doctor because I had a lot of the same symptoms that many women in particular are facing right now. So I would say that I had thinning hair, chronic fatigue, brittle nails, constant bloating, excessive weight gain that wouldn't shift no matter how hard I worked at the gym, wacky hormones, a gut that no matter what I ate or what I restricted was just never happy. And so with that, I started to look for answers and solutions that was more comprehensive, because what I was finding when I would turn up to my doctor's office is they might run one test, they might put me on a protocol, I'd feel better for a little bit, and then I'd be right back where I started. And so I really wanted to change that. And as I was looking at my career, I wasn't lit up around it. So I actually started having chronic panic attacks. And then there was one thing after another that happened in corporate that was, narcissistic bosses, abusive environments, sexual harassment. And it was one thing after another. And I finally got the message from the universe with the last panic attack that, hey, this isn't aligned and I need to do something about it. So I became a holistic health coach. I learned really strong foundational health protocols, started implementing that, and I was getting better. But I wanted to go deeper. So then I became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which allowed me to see the body synergistically, run functional labs to get to multiple root causes, and then layer in supplements to all the nutritional lifestyle and mindset upgrades. Got a lot better, started losing weight, started sleeping better, started moving better. But there was still this chronic phantom bloating and this weight that just wouldn't move. And so it kind of felt like a mystery. I'd done all the legwork, done all the detailed work, and I just thought, well, what else is left? I thought I did what I needed to do. But turns out there was another layer, and that was the energetic layer. And that brought me into energy healing. And I remember my first energy healing, I remember going to a practitioner, never put their hands on me. And I remember feeling like my liver was being pulled out of my body. And of course, that's where you store anger and resentment. And I had a lot of that from my corporate environment. And then I remember seeing images from my childhood of how the way my dad used to speak to me and the abuse that was lingering there. And so as I started to work on that and peel those layers back, I'm like, all this weight that I had battled for so long was just falling away. And then this phantom bloating was falling away. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the X factor I was missing. And then I was looking at my business and what I do now, and I'm like, everybody could benefit from this. And so that really allowed me to build this modality where I'm looking at nutrition, lifestyle, mindset upgrades. Then I'm looking at the functional items and supplements, correlating those to what the body's expressing through their symptoms, because symptoms are not your body's way of saying, I'm frustrated with you or I'm fighting with you. It's just saying, hey, I need some attention, something's off. So those are great messengers. And then the last being the energy healing, so that we're really supporting the body from a mind, body, and spirit, and allowing the body to come back online and looking at all the things that are making up our health across those three areas.
Yeah, I love, there's just so many questions when you're talking. I'm like, okay. So, but back when you had said, because I know that a lot of people listening to this can resonate with like a corporate job that they have resentment or anger. Like I didn't work for corporate, but I worked for the healthcare. So same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I used to make jokes like with other techs. I was a high risk OB ultrasound tech. So I would be like, we're like Russian slaves around here. It's like we have 10 clients, not clients, patients. And then it's like, oh, can you do two more? We can add 2 hours. We'll get, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like how, like, and we use our body. So I'm like, oh, okay. My body's like, yeah, man, it's not happening. Like this is not happening anymore, you know? So I'm paying for a chiropractor. I'm going getting massages. I had to go, if I had to work a full week of 40 hours, that's it. I used to work longer, but 40 hours, I had to go see a chiropractor and I had to go see at least get like a massage, deep tissue massage to release stuff, or I could not move on Monday morning. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
physically do my job. So, and that was all of us, every single person that worked there.
Wow.
So we have brought that to attention. So I feel like when you, in my mind, I'm thinking, God, anger and resentment, what I used to work. Like, yeah, sure. Maybe like that had came up in some parts, you know, but I feel like that's in the nursing, you know, like nurses that listen to this, you're right. A lot, anybody that works for somebody else besides yourself, like that is, that's who you're talking to, you know. And I think a lot of people, I mean, your specific story, no, you didn't work in those things, but I feel like the reason why I said that is because somebody had came to me last week. A client was like, well, I listened to this podcast, but she was in corporate America and then the other girl was a nurse. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Your experience with narcissistic bosses is your experience. It narcissistic abuse, it does the same to our bodies and minds, you know. So
Yes.
thank you for, yeah, like explaining that, because I feel like there is a lot of us, including myself. I always include myself because I'm always included into the we category. um, that deal with when you had said, talk a little bit more about when you had said about your anger and resentment stored in the liver. I don't think people realize that and what the liver deals with.
Oh, I'd love to, with pleasure. I love the liver. So,
Yes.
the liver in your body, from a physical standpoint, picture this like Grand Central Station. It has over 200 functions in the body. It stores some nutrients, it determines how well your fat is metabolized, your insulin resistance. But the main role of the liver is detoxification. And detoxification is different than detox. I think when I say detox, people think, oh, a green juice or I'm going to fast or something like that. But detoxification is a change process that is forever ongoing in your body. It's happening right now. And the role of the liver is to change a substance to something that would be so it could be excreted from the body, because if it were to accumulate in the bloodstream, it would otherwise be harmful to you. So that could include toxins from your skincare, toxins from makeup, toxins from perfume, or any sort of chemical, pesticides, herbicides, medicine. But what people don't realize sometimes is that that also includes our hormones. Our hormones actually have to go through a detoxification process. So, for example, there's phase one and phase two. That's a change process that happens in the liver. And assuming that goes well, it will go to the gut. So between phase one and phase two, there are key nutrients that you need. Iron is a huge one. Many women are already running low. So that alone would challenge the liver. But to talk about that change process, let's pick on estrogen. Estrogen actually has to be chemically changed before it can be detoxified. So usually phase one works fairly well, but between phase two and phase three, if we're nutrient deficient, chronically stressed, we have infections, there's too many toxins, we ate too much processed food or alcohol, it really gets challenged. But the liver thinks, oh, I have to prioritize what's important now that would otherwise be really problematic. So it's going to go after the pesticides, the medication, the alcohol, and it recognizes estrogen. So it's like, okay, let me recirculate that and we'll deal with it later. And that's how women end up estrogen dominant, and they have all sorts of complaints that are really difficult to manage, including our emotional state. So the liver plays in such an incredible role in your overall vitality, your energy. It plays a huge role in being able to metabolize pathogens that come into our bodies and our existence. And we do see this a lot in the gut, where people are dealing with chronic infections because the liver is backed up and it can't clear it. So that's, in a nutshell, what it does in the physical body. And then energetically, it plays a huge role in storing anger and anger and resentment. So in my case, I had a narcissistic boss that um, she ripped me out of a job that I had employee stock options. I was ranked #1 nationally and promised equity and equal pay. And then I found out she was making substantially more money than me. I didn't have equity, I didn't have a title. So it was this crazy thing where I was so hurt by it. And that was the other side of anger for me. It was just, I worked with you for 7 years. You pulled me out of something that I really loved doing. And it was betrayal. And I was really upset about that. And I had a hard time moving that. And so typically what happens is we'll feel something energetically and then it'll make its way to the physical body. So that's why I feel so passionate about my approach, because to neglect the emotional part that I was feeling was always going to do me a disservice, because I was estrogen dominant, but I was also lacking in nutrition. I was also consuming too much alcohol at the time. And so looking at all the things is like what I call a whole woman or a whole man approach. It's the whole person that we really take into account.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that too, because I feel like, especially right now, like, and I've just noticed this. I mean, I feel like maybe I noticed it, but I'm more aware of it because this whole year has been more focused on like health for me. Like and numerology and astrology or whatever. It's just been, I need to focus on my health. I've gotten plenty of, I feel like I always bounce back and forth from, I need to heal my gut. I healed my gut. Now I got to heal my gut again. And it's probably because of the processed foods. It's probably all like the stuff it's just hard to manage. And it's like, it costs a lot of money. It's not cheap. It's, like, so it's like this year anyway, I decided to focus more on my health. So getting into like, I mean, I've done, I'm a Theta Reiki master. So I've done the Reiki
Congrats.
and like, the whole anger, but not to the point that I was like, maybe I need to detox my liver. Like, that's just a random thought. So, of course, because I had that thought and because, my phone's probably listening to me, probably listening to me when I'm on my podcast now. So I'm probably gonna have a lot of liver like supplements now. But so then I seen this advertisement on TikTok about, oh, this girl was saying, oh, I, gave all the symptoms that you just gave. And she said, oh, I just detoxed my liver and it was a supplement. And, people that need that or feel, yeah, I need that. But she didn't go into the emotional piece of it. Not, she probably doesn't have a background like you or I do. So maybe she does. I don't know. But I feel like now society is starting to push these supplements and it's just, oh, my face was fat. Now it's not. And I took this thing. And it's just like, it could be high cortisol, something like that. And I feel like that has been really big lately. Probably the last couple months, I've noticed that these people are trying to promote these products and they have no idea. It's like a huge, I don't even know the word to use, maybe a myth or something. Like, I don't even know. It's like why, and it's a lot. I've been seeing it a lot on Instagram and a lot on TikTok. So can you kind of like speak to that and kind of help people understand a little bit? Maybe it is a good product. I'm not knocking these products. I'm not saying that they're bad products, but I'm just saying it's a trap. I feel like it's a money pit. You can spend a lot of money on products versus maybe just coming to work with you or, actually doing research to figure out what the root, I say this all the time on the podcast. Like the reason why I wholeheartedly believe in shamanism is because it goes to the root, and all of us are shamans. All of us do some type of shamanic something, because we get to the root of whatever is going on, and that's basically what shamanism is.
Yes. So if we could back up a little bit, I want to go down a quick rabbit hole and then answer your question. But I heard you say I had to work on my gut. And I think that's something we can all catch ourselves doing, is we have to work on our health or we have to do this. But I just want to remind our audience here is that we get to work on our health. we get to run around on this earth in this body that we only get one, and it doesn't come with a warranty. So it's an incredible privilege to let our soul have our turn here on earth. And I want source or energy to be able to move through me without any blockages. And that comes with this great respect for my self-care routine. And it's the highest form of self-love is the way that I choose to nourish my body, how I move, how I breathe, how I think, act, and believe. And it's always something I'm looking to upgrade. It's always something I look at as a crazy privilege. So I hope if you get nothing out of the conversation, we're able to upgrade how we look at what we get to do and see it as an opportunity versus something like, oh my God, I have to do this, because it puts us in an energy of not the highest form of love. And we always want to look at ourselves from the highest form of love and let our decisions move through that lens of love. That being said, going back to the
Yeah, no,
conversation
I was
on,
gonna say thank you for that. I
of
always need
course.
that reminder too, because it's like, obviously you see where I am in my health journey. I'm back there,
And
but
that's the thing, it's a
I get
journey.
you.
And
Yeah,
that's a beautiful thing to have the opportunity to go on a journey. That's beautiful. Where I am today is different than where I was 2 years ago. It's different where I was 4 months ago. And I look at that and think, thank God I had the opportunity to do that. Thank God I quote unquote had a health crisis. And my health crisis was panic attacks. Like I couldn't even work out because the heat of working out was putting me into a state where I'd be on the floor sobbing. So
yeah,
without that, it never would have led me down this path. And so I always like to remind people that whether it's a symptom or a crisis or you lose your job or you get divorced or whatever, try to keep in mind that hurricanes don't come to destroy. They come to give you an opportunity to rebuild. It's just really hard to see that when you're eyeing the hurricane. But if you can hold on to that ineffable truth that it's all happening for you, not to you, a lot of good can happen. Um, but rounding back to the whole liver and the supplements thing, here's my take. I use supplements in my practice. I think there's absolutely a time and a place if they're the right, if they've been third party tested, gluten free, soy free, like the quality matters big time. But it also won't fix the problem if you're not looking at everything holistically. So if you're still eating processed food every day, if you're over consuming alcohol, if you're not hydrating, if you're not moving, if you're not sweating, don't expect a supplement to fix that. You always want to nourish your body. So taking out some of those inflammatory foods like dairy and gluten and all the sugar, and then thinking about adding in things. So instead of looking at it like restriction, it's like, no, I'm choosing foods that love me back. And of course, there's a bio individuality to that. But there are certain things that everybody loves. The body loves a wide variety of plants. It loves fiber. It loves like eating like the rainbow, organic foods, clean water. It loves, it loves to move. And then we also want to look at what burdens the liver. And this is where everyone decides they don't like me because coffee has a ton of caffeine and the liver doesn't love that. I'm sorry. I know you want to like block your ears and not listen to me anymore, but it does. And the things that I talk about, like medications can burden the liver, and that's not me being anti-medication. If you need it, get on with it, but it still needs to go through a change process. Um, and then the environmental toxins. So looking at the quality of your water is really important. And then looking at what's going on your skin. What kind of fragrances are you using? Do you have too many plastics in your environment? And so that's where you get to be on a journey. So no one's going to expect you to go toxin free or organic like overnight. It's more so looking at where are my opportunities to upgrade every time I get to make a purchase. And so that's what I like to do with my clients is walk them through this journey hand in hand over the course of several months, meeting them where they're at in a loving, nourishing way that's not overwhelming. Because the liver, throwing a supplement that's even high quality at the liver without addressing some of these other lifestyle, nutritional, mindset, energetic things, it's kind of like you're on a sinking boat and you're just like taking a little bucket and you're scooping the water out and it's not really getting you anywhere. But if you add those supplements in that are really strong herbs, in addition to everything else you're doing, boom, everything comes back online because the liver plays such an incredible role.
yeah. Thank you for saying that too, because I feel like there's a lot of people, especially I'm talking to my husband here right now because he's going to be listening to this. Just saying, I've noticed that there's emotional things that have been going on with him. You're just like healing, on his journey, whatever he's doing. And I feel like there's a supplement that shows up to the house, which he's really big into research, and I'm telling you, he'll make sure, it's good. And I'm just looking at him and I'm thinking, I don't know if that's going to work. because you're not working on the emotional piece of it. It's a supplement that works together, but I'm just looking like, I'm just like, And then I noticed that he then figures that out. And then he's like, the supplement's not working. I was like, it has to work together. So it's
Yes.
interesting how, when you say that. And to be honest, I don't think people even, I knew this. And just because I thought everybody knew this, just like when I was younger, and I'm like, I could see things. And I'm like, can't you see that? And nobody can see that. So I was like, okay. I guess people don't see what I see. And I guess people don't know what I know. Like, and it's not that I know everything. It's just, I guess it's just common to me. And I don't think that it's very common. I think people, when I hear people say it didn't work, and I'm like, what didn't work? You taking this,
Mm,
or, and that's why I've been asking you like this question, because I feel like, with your expertise, it's important to do all of it together. I mean, sure, emotion, yeah. So you go do the emotional piece, but then, like you said, you also have to do the holistic piece, and you have to do the mindset piece. So it's
you
like,
get to do all these things.
yeah,
Yes.
yes, you get to do all of these things. Yeah, I mean, you should, and that's like shooting on people, but it's like it's the right thing to do if that's the path and journey that you want to go. If it's not, then it's not. Like, none of this matters. You wouldn't be here listening to it. Yeah.
Right. And I think that when it comes to our health is what we do consistently, not perfectly.
Right.
So there's a world of a difference. I have been sober for a year and a half now, but even when I was casually drinking, or even in my practice now, would I love everybody to be sober? Absolutely. But there's a world of difference than sitting around on a Friday night with your closest girlfriends and having a glass or two of wine than the everydayness of it, because we're not taught to metabolize our emotions. And so, what I want people to understand ultimately is that it's a crazy privilege to be able to work on your health. And if you're going the energy healing route, keep doing that. That's amazing. But think about how much faster and quicker you would get results if your body is itself healthy. If there's not any like slow moving chi going on in there, or, like if you have all the nutrients to power up your cellular function so your detoxification can work, that really matters. And where I where I get really nervous around this detox stuff is like, let's say people just assume they have an infection, like a parasite or an H. pylori, and like, oh, I'm just going to go do this cleanse. That's super dangerous, because if your liver is not open, if your pathways are clogged, you're going to kill off some of the stuff and recycle it. And now you have a bigger problem. So we always start with how I start in my practice is first and foremost getting your nutrition upgraded. Then we look at upgrading your mitochondria. Then we look at your minerals, and we're opening up drainage pathways. And you can do that for free at home. You can take an Epsom salt bath. You can do dry brushing. You can do castor oil packs. You can take loose leaf organic herbs to support the liver, like milk thistle or dandelion. I understand that's not free, but some of these practices like moving and hydrating, really nailing down the foundation so you can build a strong home versus trying to build a home on a crumbling foundation.
Now you were giving a lot of like tips on like stuff that you can do at home. Can you
Mm-hmm.
kind of, it's been a huge journey so this year I was diagnosed with lymphedema. I've dealt with it like my whole life, but I've noticed this year specifically, I believe it's attached to my um weight gain that I've gained this year and last year. And I feel like so in my mind, I kept saying, well, this is me telling myself, well, I can't work out because my body hurts. It's like, but if I work out, my body doesn't hurt. It does hurt, but it's like the extra, water. And this is my conversation to myself, so everybody can hear it. And I noticed, well, I need to get a vibration plate. I started feeling better. It started moving the fluids down, like the vibration.
Amazing.
Then it was like, oh, and then it counts as a workout. So I don't necessarily need to, if I can't go to the gym, because for whatever reason I can't get to the gym, then I'm still doing something. So going to here's me, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to go to the doctors now. And, just to get the diagnosis to help with, holistically, or like something that they can offer or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
they actually approved a pump, and it pumps. It's like every night, you put this pump on, it's like an hour and it helps out. However, when I started eating more like a less inflammatory diet, which I love to eat, like that's actually something that my body craves, I started to notice something different between what you just said of like the fluid just coming off. Like I didn't feel so bloated. I didn't feel
Stunning.
puffy. And it's like, it was literally what I was eating, or the energy drinks that I like, the Alani energy drinks that my husband always tells me about. He's like, stop drinking them. And I'm like, what? It's like the only thing that gives me energy. Now I'm taking supplements and I'm doing this and doing that. And I don't need to drink as much. I mean, I have one here and there. I know that they're bad, but it's it's not as bad. Like it was, I used to drink two a day and or drinking coffee. It's like, coffee really didn't even give me energy anyway. It was more, I liked the taste of it.
Mm.
Doing more, I felt so, I had to drink so much water after coffee that I'm like, this is just defeating the purpose of drinking coffee. I'm not doing that anymore. So it's like going through just like trial and error. I didn't realize how, I mean, I guess I know a lot about the body, but intuitively, I'm like, this is not making me feel good.
Mm.
This is not, and I feel like a lot of us, people talk about intuitive eating. It's just like, well, what does that look like for you? Drinking, eating processed foods, like, no, that's not intuitive. Like that's eating this and that. Here's the thing, like drinking casually. Sure, I do that sometimes, not all the time. It's like in moderation. But I started to be more consistent with eating processed foods and more consistent with eating sugar and and then that's where we're back here.
Mm.
So it's true. I'm very consistent, good and bad. I feel like that is huge when it comes to switching things and
Mm-hmm.
learning about the human, like my human design and how my body digests stuff and why I was so resistant to this, because my body's not operating a lot. I can't change my body and how it operates. I have to change.
Mm. I think that's stunning, and I just want to comment on how your story can resonate with a lot of people, because there's so many times where we have this inner voice that's like, ooh, like I don't think that food is working for me, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or I can upgrade this. But we've been trained to kind of bypass that thought and look externally for expertise. Now, I have worked with many practitioners over the journey, and I'm so thankful that I have, because working with guided practitioners has made a huge difference. But at the end of the day, if we can quiet the emotions and the busyness and disconnect from our phone and really carve out sacred time to come home to ourselves, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes at bookending your day, you can really hone in on your intuition and practice getting really good at listening to that. And then really choosing to disconnect from the noise, because ultimately, my take is there's a world of a difference between having a whole real food and something that was manufactured in a lab. Like, for example, I've been vegan since 2006, and I could go have the vegan cookies or the Beyond Beef burgers or what have you. And once in a while, sure. But I know at my heart, if I want to be a high vibrational being, I want to have high vibrational food that was grown ideally by local farmers who were treated well. That the food has been grown organically to the best of its ability when it's ever possible. And for those that are struggling with a budget, work with frozen vegetables that are organic, or use baking soda for fruits and vegetables to clean off the residue as best you can. But it's again going back to that privilege of being able to nourish yourself and moving accordingly to that. That can be what I find really, really helpful, because like we've talked about, we only get one body. So I love that you're like, nutrition actually can make a huge difference. And the sad thing about that is if you go to a medical doctor, there are times and places where, believe me, it's necessary. And I'm not knocking doctors specifically, but their training is spent substantially on medications and how they interact with one another, how you can leverage them, and only 4 hours or less is on nutrition. There's less time even spent on perimenopause and menopause. So you're going to someone that is not educated on how you can use food as medicine, because the system does not warrant for that. So it's like you can choose to eat the food that is going to nourish you, every cell, tissue, organ in a positive way, or it could be your slowest form of poison, and let that empower you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I think we've talked a couple times a different, like somebody had asked me a question of like, or one of the podcast guests have asked me a question specifically. There's been a couple that had said, I love that you talk about like Western medicine is needed, but also holistically. I was like, oh yeah, I have a huge belief about that. Just
Mhm.
because I worked in Western medicine. Yeah, I know how they operate. Like, I know how. I'm like, why can't you just tell them to eat this? And it's just like, no. And I'm like, why not? Like, it actually, here's me. Why not? Like that actually will help them. And it's like, no. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I can't subscribe to this anymore, So,
They can't bill for nutritional advice. That's why.
right. Yeah. So,
So if you want to sit down and talk to a doctor about upgrading your nutrition, it's not billable hours for them in most cases. So they can't work an insurance model and have that kind of support.
right. I love that you said
Unfortunately, I
parent
hope that
time.
the
Yes.
model changes at some point.
Yes.
And there's
Yeah.
actually some doctors where I've seen where they're changing their model to be a self-pay opt-in model so that you can get 40, 50 minutes with them because they're realizing that, hey, like functional medicine has changed to where instead of a pill, it's a supplement for this. And again, you're not actually getting to the root causes. And I say that plural very intentionally because there are usually a few things going on that has brought your health back online. And I don't say that to overwhelm, but I actually say that to bring people relief because you go into a doctor thinking, I want a diagnosis, I want one root cause. Then you go after that and think, oh boy, I didn't get to everything else. And that's why it's not working. So you really need to put all the puzzle pieces together. And that's why it can be very helpful to work with an experienced practitioner so we can zoom out, put all the puzzle pieces together, and get you on a protocol that does address everything as the whole person.
Yeah. Yeah. Specifically, and I dealt with that too, especially when you say nutrition. It has been nutrition for me because I used to, I would go get my annual physicals and like make sure I'm okay, I'm healthy. And I was always overweight my whole life. I was never, like I'm not my whole life, but like I've had here and there, like dealing with weight. And they're like, well, your blood work's fine. This is fine. Your like hormones are fine and all this is fine. And I was like, but I'm not fine. Like there's something.
Mm.
And then that's when I started getting into energy healing because I'm like, okay, so like if you're not going to help me, I'll just help myself. Same thing too. I'm overweight, like on the, this graft. And I'm like, I sometimes, maybe I have high cortisol here and there, and I'm like, my blood work's always normal. Every time I go to the GYN, my hormone levels are always fine. And I'm like, so I'm just supposed to be tired, and then that's when I got into human design, realizing I wasn't using the energy I was given. I wasn't using it correctly. So then, the weight just started falling off again. And I kind of got back into old habits. And then it started to come back. And I was like, well, I'll just go back to the basics again. And that's what I'm doing. And I know what to do, but I feel like society or like people are like, oh, I need to, once, and I feel a couple of my friends tell me this. They're like, Lauren, what did you do? I go to the doctors and everything's normal. And I'm like, well, now I can tell them they can work with you. But, I say, do they do this? Are you doing this? Are you working on your emotions? Do you see a therapist? Like, there's a lot of different things. And they're like, I had no idea that it could be that. I'm like, you're pretty much a single mom with 3 kids. Do you think that affects anything? I think it does.
Absolutely, it does. And I'll pick on cortisol in a minute. But one thing that really stood out was going to a doctor and hearing your labs are fine is the most infuriating thing that you could hear, particularly as a woman, because you get coded as like a whiny woman that your complaints aren't valid. But let a man show up and they don't feel good, then it's a different story. So
Yep.
I would definitely want to go down this rabbit hole because in my practice, like as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, we have tighter ranges. So what I want people to understand when you're getting feedback that your labs are normal, you're being compared to anyone and everyone who has ever taken that test and walked into that lab. So let's say Quest has a range. That's a range of the youngest person to the oldest person to the most unhealthy person. And looking at the average American, I'm sorry to say, is very unwell. So average, average just means you're unwell. So you want to look at a tighter range and get to optimal. So as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, we actually have tighter ranges because normal could mean that you're not doing so hot, which is great feedback. So we can kind of address that. But let's pick on cortisol, for example, because you went down this path. And what I was getting from your story is that your cortisol was being raised because you weren't living in alignment with how your energy works. That's a great example of how you can drive up cortisol. But what I really want women in particular to understand about cortisol, this does ring true for men, but I see it a ton in my practice with women, is that they'll say, oh, your cortisol levels are normal. So again, looking at a tiny range, I could tell you they're very much not normal. But cortisol's role in the body is the long-term stress hormone response. So if you think about ancient times, what did we need that for? Flood, famine, war. And at any given point, what did that mean? Food was restricted. So the body gets the message, hey, I'm not safe. I'm going to shunt hormone production, i.e. fertility issues. I'm also going to store fat because I know food isn't coming. So where does that store? It around your waist because you have critical organs there. When it runs out of space, it goes to your back to protect your heart and lungs. When it runs out of space there, it goes to the back of your arms. So you get this back veranda, this belly fat that won't move. And it's frustrating to the modern woman because they're working out, they're restricting calories. And it's like, oh, I thought those are the only two factors that impacted body weight, shape, and size. And it's like, no, no, no. There's actually 10. So it's looking at all those. And again, that's why the root causes approach really matters, because your cortisol is not just your energetic stress or your work stress or your partner stress. Like cortisol can be driven by food sensitivities or infections in the gut. So that's why you got to really zoom out and put your arms around things. But the cool thing is like once you nail down strong foundations, everything comes back online. So it might feel overwhelming to, get your morning sunlight and move and hydrate, but you start building these foundations and they become daily habits. And then suddenly it's just who you are. You take on this identity that I'm a healthy person. Just like when I became sober, I used to be a heavy binge drinker. Everybody knew me as a partier. And now my identity is I don't drink. So it's the same thing as like me not being a smoker. So it's like, oh, do you get questions? Was it hard? No, identify as a healthy person and I don't drink. Simple as that. So I don't know. I hope that's helpful for those
Oh,
people
it is.
struggling with like hearing, oh my God, my labs are fine, but they feel anything but. And there's reasons why you're getting that message.
Yeah, yeah. Specifically too, because it was like the last couple years. My husband's gonna be like, "Why'd you have to call me out?" But it's okay. He'll be okay. He got just go to the doctors and get a baseline because he has a high stress job. He works for SEPTA. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's East. It's a railroad. So he right now is in training to be an engineer. So like he drives the trains. It's a very high stress job. Very, very, very high stress job. And he was talking about his cortisol, and I'm like, well, um, your job, like it makes sense. I mean, he really enjoys his job. However, you know even if you enjoy your job and it's a high stress job, you can still work at your job. Like you can still be there. And I just
Yes.
the biggest suggestion, and what I literally just heard you say this whole time, is finding alternate things that can help. Like if it's like him to meditate maybe on his lunch break, or maybe he could just go walk outside, like what you just said, like something like that. And I've suggested that to him. So it's like somebody listening to this, like you don't have to leave your high stress job if you really enjoy it. It just could be like the actual, like I don't want to say high stress is a bad thing, but like responsibility. He just has a lot of responsibility at work. That's it. And that could make his body feel like, oh God, here we go. Like, up and down roller coaster, emotional roller coaster. But he really enjoys what he does. Um, so I feel like that was like another like nugget of wisdom that I feel like you have said. Like you don't always you can find alternate things and ways to do things.
I'm
So
so glad you brought that up because I think there's this notion that no matter what, cortisol is going to be high and there's nothing we can do about it if we want to make good money. And that is a really big fallacy because part of it goes back to setting healthy boundaries, even in your workplace, allowing yourself to take a lunch break. Please, for the love of God, chew your food, get your breath, eat your lunch. But also, it sometimes comes down to how we think. So let's say someone pings you at work. They're like, where's that work? The deadline was yesterday, or I have to get to my boss. Like, do you allow yourself to freeze up about that? Or are you going to be able to take a breath and think, oh, okay, like they're not, or are you creating a story? Because sometimes people will create a story like, oh my God, they think I'm lazy. They think I'm inefficient, when really they just are simply asking where the work is. So sometimes it's checking the stories that we tell ourselves and then checking in with our breath, that your breath is your quickest way to reduce your cortisol and get you back online. So you can take an index card or a credit card and practice doing like 4 seconds in through your nose and then 6 seconds out on the exhale through your belly, and do that for a minute every hour on the hour. Or you can practice your breath at the stoplight, or anytime you check your phone, it's like, no, I'm going to do breath work first. And that is the most powerful way for you to tell your body to get out of fight or flight zone into rest or digest. Because if you think about it again, historically, you could never breathe through your nose slowly or diaphragmatically if you're like fleeing a tiger. So the breath is the quickest way to come back online. And then also checking in, like, am I creating a narrative? Am I allowing this to kind of spin out of control? And is there a better lie? Like, could I tell myself a better lie about the situation? What is the higher perspective here, I guess, is a better way to put that.
Yeah. Or like assuming, like that's the thing about assuming. My mom used to always tell me this. She's like, don't ever assume, Lauren. It's going to make yourself look like an ass and that other person look like an ass. And I'm like, oh, it's a good way to look at it.
So true. So true.
Yeah. Because you could just say like, oh, I apologize or whatever. I mean, I feel like all of us have those stories. I know I do sometimes too. Like, if it's like, what just happened before we started recording, like I was like, oh god, this, like the recording, the Zoom shut down, like all this stuff. I'm like, it was a story that I was telling myself, and then now you were like, no worries, things happen, right?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a really powerful thing to be able to say. It's like, if you're feeling like something has upset you and you just let it linger, that does disrupt your energetic field. It raises your cortisol and just lingers. So a really good skill to pull out is using your words. So let's say you were at your kid's soccer game and another parent, you felt like they were being rude or they were short or they didn't want to talk to you. Instead of just creating a narrative, you could simply check in with that parent, like, hey, I noticed that you didn't say, hi, is everything okay? And they might say, oh my gosh, my mom got a critical diagnosis, or, I was really hoping to drop my kid off because I didn't have time to shower. I had a crazy morning. And then you're leading with your heart. And I can guarantee you, every time I've done that, I was like, why didn't I ask sooner? Like, why did I assume? Why did I create this narrative? Because I was leading from like the wounded part of myself. And I was like, I really do believe that everybody has kind hearts. So there's no need for me to carry this or create a story. And why don't I just ask and assume goodwill? And I've never had a backfire. I've never had anybody be like, yes, I intentionally hurt you. I meant to hurt your feelings. It's never happened. So that could be good too. If you feel like you're like, oh my gosh, this boss is on me. It's like, hey boss, I know that I've been running late, for example. There's stuff going on at home. I need you to know I care deeply about the work that I do. This is what's going on. Can you give me a little bit of grace? And I care about my performance. I care about how I contribute to the company, and just coming with like an open heart and having that conversation goes miles.
Right. Or giving the other person the awareness of, hey, you're acting like an asshole. Not that, but like, like, hey, this is how you're acting. And then I'm telling you, they probably don't even realize they're acting like that because nobody has actually made them aware of how they act. Or maybe they do know they act like that, but yeah, I definitely agree with you on people have kind hearts. It doesn't matter what's going on. Like that, if you see an accident, right? Like on the road, there is a random person that will stop and help that person, and they don't know that person. That's just
Right.
proof that, we all have kind hearts. It's just, life gets in the way and trauma gets in the way of,
Yeah.
Of things. I would do want to switch a little bit about, I want you to talk a little bit about your energy healing. So like maybe like the process of like how, so people can kind of get a little glimpse of how working with you in, doing the energetic piece of leading, like the energetic piece that's leading to the physical healing. Like does the process look like?
With pleasure. Thank you for asking. So, I'm a Reiki master. I am also certified in integrated energy therapy. I do bring in psychic and mediumship and intuitive abilities to my work, sometimes inner child work, but really the session turns out to be pretty custom depending on who's in front of me. So, I'm a distance energy healing practitioner. And for those of you who haven't experienced that, the reason why it works so well is because energy is not limited to time, distance, or space. And so, it actually allows me to channel at a much higher rate because I'm not distracted by sounds or look, like I'm already channeled to my environment and you're channeled to yours. So the way that I work, my custom approach is scheduling a time with someone. So let's say, Lauren, you came to me, we would set up a time. I like to work with people over a couple sessions to really get to the deep root. or roots, I should say. But let's say we jump on, and I'll always ask you to come with an intention if that feels good. If you want to be open to receiving, that's cool too. But let's say you come with an intention, we'll talk quickly about that. I'll invite you to turn your camera off and get in your coziest blanket and lay down in your bed or whatever feels good to you. I'll stay connected over Zoom the whole time. I will walk you through a brief meditation. And that's really helpful to drop you out of your mind and into your body and really just open yourself up to receiving. Then I let my client know that I'm going to start sending the energy. And I always invite you to check in and just be a present observer. So if you're getting images, feelings, sensations, thoughts, whatever, become an observer. So kind of watch it like clouds going through the sky. And then when we're done, I always ask people if they want to hear the messages that come through. And so that can range anything from past life to, oh, this dynamic with this person is presenting like this. How does that resonate? Or sometimes it's intuitive downloads. Like the other day, someone came to me for skin issues, and I immediately knew that it was environmental toxin. She had a test on it, confirmed it. Boom, she's off to the races. This is something she's been dealing with for 2 years. And so it just kind of depends. And then sometimes there's, shadow work that needs to be done or inner child work where their intention might be like, I really dropped the ball on this sales call and I cannot move forward. And turns out it was like an inner child deeper work. And so it's always custom to who's in front of me. And the beauty of energy healing is that it always gives us what we need, nothing more, nothing less. So anything that's coming up, it's coming up because it's ready to be healed, metabolized, released. So you can restore and recode for whatever feels good to you. And then at the end, when I'm sharing the channel messages that are coming up, the visions that are coming up, that part is recorded and people can have that and go back to it. And then, in some of my packages, actually every package comes with text and voice message support along with integration work, because it's a very big difference of having a one-off session and integrating your experience. So especially in those cases where big things are coming up, you might want some journal prompts, or you might want some rituals so you know how to alchemize your own energy and clear energy that's not yours. Or sometimes recoding with an imprint. And what I mean by that is like a meditation where we're really working to recode. So it looks different. Every session is different. And the more I work with an individual, the deeper we can go. But it is my life's passion. It's so important because it took me from what I would consider, I was in a state where, I just didn't want to go on anymore. I didn't want to feel this pain. So I wasn't looking to live here anymore. And it quite literally saved my life. And it was the difference in my health. And it has radically transformed my life. And I've seen it radically transform people that I've worked with. And it is such a crazy gift to be in front of someone who's willing to trust you with such personal, energetic space.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that you say like you're a Reiki master, but it seems like you're also a medium and, very trained intuitive. And I feel like that just listening to all of the support and guidance, because, I know a lot of people that do Reiki, right? But I feel like for you specifically is really, I don't know any of your clients and I hardly know you, but I just feel intuitively that you like go above and beyond, because it's like you're doing the energy work, you're channeling messages, you're releasing that trauma. And I just feel like that support is, I wish they actually would teach that in some sort of for like Reiki certifications. I guess they can't really teach people to be mediums. You are a medium or you're not, but I feel like that
You could definitely develop the skill, because I know I didn't see spirit when I was little. When I went on this journey and became a Reiki master, I went sober overnight. And as I deepened into this work, and I was like, well, where did that come from? Like it completely blindsided me. So you definitely can build that. We all are intuitive, but
yeah.
you have to be committed to that practice. And not everybody wants to do that. And that's totally cool.
Yeah. And I love that you just said that too, because people are like, I wish I had your gifts, Lauren. I'm like, well, I can teach you. You can have all of my gifts. Like I can teach you, just because I have more experience my entire life with my gifts doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be better at them than me, because mine they have a lot of trauma, like cobwebs around them sometimes, like I
Yeah.
have a lot of things. It's not just like, like, no, that's not how it is. Like, but it could be for somebody else. So it's like it's this, I feel like the spiritual community is like, you can't have there is a section that it's like, you can't have what I have. This is me. Like, it's not, it's like, I want you to be like me. Like, I want you to be better than me, like you could be a medium, you can channel. It's all about, at the end of the day, self-trust. And if you just know what you know and trust what you know, right? It's just it just happens. And it's not magic. It just, it's doing the work pretty much, So
Yeah. And I think to your point, we all come into this world with our own unique gifts and our own imprints. So you could go to one psychic and they could do one part of that exceptionally well because that's their true gift. And then you could work with somebody else who's also a psychic and they do it slightly differently because they have their own signature. So never let what you think is so sparkly and wonderful about somebody else give you permission to dim your own light. You are unique and you are gorgeous and you are divinity in the human form. So I hope people never lose sight of that because jealousy is the quickest way to self-destruct, I feel, where true spirituality is knowing that there is an abundance of everything. If you walk outside, you can see abundance of leaves, abundance of air, or an abundance of bird noises or what have you. And that's kind of like the same thing when it comes to this. Like there's an abundance of gifts that you have access to. There's an abundance of spirit around you that you could pull from and you could channel from at any given point. We're also incredibly gifted. So the fact that somebody else is naturally more inclined for this gift doesn't diminish your gifts by any means. And you have the opportunity to build whatever you choose to. You have free will. And that's amazing.
yes, yeah, 100%. Like specifically, I've always liked to hear. Like, so I specifically made the intention that is what I want. My mentor
Mm-hmm.
does not. She shuts it off. She's like, I don't want it. You can also say that too. You don't want it.
Yes.
So it'll come a different way. It'll come through feeling, or it come through a vision, or it come through like just a knowing. She thinks I'm crazy, which, I guess I am, but she's like, how do you do that? That's overwhelming. And I'm like, well, I have boundaries. It's not all the time. I don't want to hear you all the time. I don't want to hear spirit all the time. Like, come on, you know?
That is so important. I'm so glad you said that, Lauren, because I think too, when people are going down their spiritual journey, there is some fear like, oh my God, I don't want to hear something or see something that's going to freak me out. I don't want to know when this person is dying. But that's not really how it works. Like you can
Yeah.
choose how you want to have a relationship with spirit. So for example, some of my energetic boundaries is like, I don't want to do any paranormal stuff. I don't want to get involved with any of that. I am open to beings of the highest light and vibration. That's what I say before every session. Before every session, I tell my ego, you got to stay outside. Like this isn't for Kristin. I don't want anything to do with Kristin. I am channeling for the client in front of me. And in my own house, I set energetic boundaries, only the beings of the highest light and vibration, and only my spirit team is allowed in my bedroom. So I say that to distinguish, like sometimes after a session, things will still keep channeling. I'm okay with that for a time. And if it needs to shut off, it will shut off. But you can set those boundaries and you can have a relationship with spirit that works for you. And I love that you said, I want to hear, so I'm going to set the intention to hear more. And that's perfect. If that works for you, grand. For me, like I kind of want it all. And I know that some of my clairs are a little weaker than others, and I can choose to dial those up when I need to, or if I chose to. Like right now, I'm working with animals, and that has lit me up because I've been a vegan since I was 17, and I just love that. And I love working on people and having their cat come work on their heart as I'm doing it. It's just that's the other benefit of distance Reiki. Your pets can party with us. So I don't know. I digress. I know I'm getting super excited about this, but I just think everybody has so many gifts and you have the opportunity to tap into them. It's not reserved for a few elusive, you know, hand selected people. Everybody can do it.
Right. Yes. And I feel like that is not the norm. That is not what people think. And I'm like, I wish people, it is changing a little bit, but I wish people would know that you can have everything I can have and more. I want you to
Yeah.
have more than me. Like, that's what, I don't feel success. Like, same thing about success. And like when I'm working with clients, it's like somebody asked me what success feels like. I'm like, when somebody else is winning, that's when I feel successful.
Oh, that's stunning.
Yeah. Because it's
Good
true.
on you.
I'm doing the service if you're still in the same place. Now, granted, I can't force you to do the work,
Right.
but that's a different rabbit hole. But I can give you everything I know and help you with, where you're at.
Absolutely. I love that.
So before we wrap up, I really want to know, like, just for like the people listening, I know we talked about a lot of things, but I'd love to hear your perspective on trauma in the body. So like really is happening energetically when people are experiencing trauma, and how does that energy get stuck and manifest as illness later?
Oh, I just got chills because they're actually coming out with studies that's linking trauma to autoimmune. And I actually do see this when I work on people. I worked on a gentleman, he was about 57, and he was a partner at a national insurance firm. He was a broker there, then became partner. And I remember working on his heart, and I felt like there was a hole in his heart. And so energetically, I was like stitching up his heart. And after, when we were chatting, I always ask, like, hey, are you ready to hear messages? Is there anything, anywhere you don't want me to go? And he's like, I want it all. I said, okay, this is what I'm feeling with your heart. And then I was drawing a connection between, it was like, first of all, I saw a hole. And as I was describing it, he kind of went pale. And he said, oh, I do have a hole in one of his, I forget what it was, but something related to, I think, the chamber of the heart. There was something that needed to be surgically fixed. And so that was quite literally showing up. And some of the heart issues was a lack of self compassion, but it was also this grief around his children because his ex wife was incredibly abusive. And he had been, with that abuse, he had lost connection with his children. And it was quite literally showing up in his body. And I see that a lot with women with hyper or hypothyroid issues because they cannot speak their truth. It literally blocks that. It really disrupts the energy coming through that. And so, all that to say, anytime you have stored emotions, particularly the big ones, or it could be even a little offense that to you is big, it doesn't really matter the event, it matters the emotions behind the event that really matter. And so, when you have those stuck emotions, it is kind of like running a computer with a virus in the background, and then all of a sudden, boom, the computer crashes. But it's always been there. It's been slowing every single function. Your memory on the computer isn't as good. Opening documents becomes a little harder. You become a little bit more susceptible to spam coming in. That's kind of what trauma can do. So it's incredibly powerful to metabolize those emotions and get them out of there. And then the operating system, i.e., your body, works so much better because your body is so intelligent. It actually knows how to self heal. That's why I don't call myself a healer, because I don't heal anything. I'm literally here to guide you and to hold space for you and allow you to metabolize these emotions and allow you to put the right inputs into the body because the body self heals.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. Even though my title that I call myself is a trauma healer, to the society, they know what that means. But
Yes.
when we get in session, people are like, I need you to help. I need you to heal me. And I'm like, I'm not healing nothing. Like, I'm not doing that. And I hear people all the time, which I think it's just a lack of just maybe their words, just like how I'm like, I have to, they forget that they don't, you don't have to do anything. I get to do it. Um,
Mm.
that and it gives me really icky feelings when people are like this. I heal people, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it's just a lack of maybe intelligence on their part, or understanding that they're just helping guide them, with their personal experience. And I've noticed that a lot of people lately that I've been connected with they have very similar stories to me. And it's like there's a purpose. It's like kindred spirits. Like, I feel like every single person on my podcast, I've probably had a lifetime with them at some point, because we have very
Mm-hmm.
similar experiences, or we're very similar journeys, but just completely we're going together. We just have There's just different purposes, and I just love that,
Mm-hmm.
because I think, to be honest, I wish there was more people in society that felt that way. I feel like it's starting to shift, or it has shifted, but it's more, we need more light than dark, because the world has enough dark, and we just
Yeah.
need more people to kind of see the light. So thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. And likewise. And
Thank you.
yeah, I have an appreciation for language, and I try to be very careful with my language. And I
Yeah.
will say that I use many practitioners on my journey, and at the time, in my bones, I knew I could self heal, but it would have taken me 10, 15 years to get there. So for me to be able to make quantum leaps in my healing, working with people was incredibly helpful, because if you get a
Oh, yeah.
really good practitioner, they can mirror back things to you. They can help you see the light in yourself. They can help you learn how to metabolize things. And so you do become the self healer. But if you feel lost or you feel overwhelmed, or you have so much life going on, like, choose your practitioner that feels aligned to you, and that can be the best money you ever spend.
Yes. Yes, I do definitely resonate with that. However, you also might have an experience like me when you latch on to them because it feels so safe that you don't leave when you need to leave, like, or you move on when you need to move on.
Mm,
That was a 3 lesson thing for me. It's like I
yeah.
knew I just needed to gain that confidence and that self-esteem to be like, I can do this, or have them say, you can do this. And I make sure in my own practice that if I feel somebody's latching on to me, I'm like, okay, you can do it. I'm here. But
Good on you. That's awesome.
I push them. It's like, here
Mm,
you go. You're going off the ledge now. You'll be okay. Trust me.
mm.
Your ego is telling you it's not safe, but you'll be okay. So I make
I
sure.
love that because that's where the empowerment comes in, and that's where people's power are, is when they are empowered. So that's such a beautiful thing that you do.
Yeah. And I see it, and I'm seeing it too. Like, one of my clients that she was like probably one of my first ever clients. She worked with me for a while, and I started to notice that she was latching on to me last year. And I was like, I had to kind of just very kindly, gently say that you are good. You can do it. And she's very intelligent. And I needed to give her that push. And she came to me about 6 months ago and she was like, I'm so happy that you pushed me. She's like, I know that I was mad at you. She was very mad at me, very mad. And I knew it had nothing to do with me.
Mm,
And, I feel like a lot of us dealt with that. Maybe you don't know that that person's mad. Oh, but they're mad. They're mad at you.
yeah.
And they do what they need to do. And then they come back. And it's sometimes you don't know. And I feel like for me, I was like, did I do the wrong thing? Should I help her more? Did I not, like, and then, she came back and she apologized, which, it's just the journey of, healing. And it's like my big mountaintop message that I say to everybody is like, I feel like I was here to show people that healing doesn't have to be deep and heavy. Because I feel
Mm.
like people don't do it because it's hard or it feels hard. And I feel like it doesn't always have to be that way?
Yeah, and I like to remind people to take that a step further. It's like, what's possible on the other side? And what do you stand to lose if you don't do this work? So instead of focusing on,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's so hard, think about how expansive it would be to get your health back online. Because I'll give you a silly little example, but how this all came about is I moved back from Nashville, I left a relationship, relocated, started a new job, sexually harassed on day 3. And I was just over the top because I would also had a narcissistic boss and it was all the things. And I came home. All I wanted to do was take my fancy bath in my little jacuzzi. I turned the water on and it was brown water spilled out. And I lost my mind. I said things I didn't mean. And it was just like, I don't even recognize who I've become. Like that's how I was living life. Like the littlest things would set me off because my energy was like this constant boiling pot. And all it took was like me dropping a glass of water or me dropping my pen, and then that dial would go up and I'd lose control of my whole day. And so it's like, if you're in that place where, and maybe it's not manifesting like that, but is that really how you want to live if you're dealing with this and it's subtly impacting everything, all your relationships, how you sleep and your work? The other side of that is so much better. And that's why I feel so passionate about energy healing, is because you get to sit there and be in receivership mode versus sitting in a chair talking about your trauma to a therapist. This is not an attack on therapy. Please don't construe it as such. I have gone to therapy myself, but for me individually, it was traumatic. And to go through the event that happened harmed me in a way I can't even articulate. But to be in an energy healing modality, and there are many ways that you can do that, right? It doesn't have to be just, one modality. Like acupuncture works really well for people, and I don't like it. I don't want needles in me, but go do it if that works for you. But my point is, like, energy healing can be really gentle for big things, and it can work fairly quickly, as long as you're doing the integration work, like upgrading your mindset and all the things that we talked about. So to your point, yeah, it doesn't have to be dark and messy, but keep in mind the set where you're going is so much better. So I like to get people to think about that versus sitting in the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely, I was going to say, and plus the listeners, they know, I say this all the time. Like I was in thought therapy for a very long time, and it does not work by itself. It works together with something holistic. It
Mm,
works. I probably bashed talk therapy probably at one point in the episode or whatever. But I mean, like the people listening, obviously they probably are like, yeah, I can resonate with that. You know, I'm not saying therapy is bad, but it needs to, I don't want to just sit here and talk and intellectualize everything that I feel. Let's figure out how we can do it together. Like what do I need to do now? You know, so it definitely works with holistic, you know, healing too.
Yeah, definitely.
So if somebody is curious about working with you both functional health and energetic health, what is the journey like? What would the journey look like from start to finish with you?
We'll start with a free chemistry call where we can explore some of your health goals. And then from there, talk about what program makes sense for you. There's one where it's really just foundations, no supplements, no labs, no energy healing. There's another one that does, you know, it brings in the foundations plus functional health and supplements. And then there's energy alchemy that folds all of it in with energy healing. That's my most popular one. And then there's some people that just come to me for energy work. So you can always reach out to me on my website, KristinSitek.com. See what resonates, and then just book a free chemistry call and we could talk a little bit about what's going on for you, and then you can ask any questions, and then together we can decide if or how you want to move forward in a way that works for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I can
Yeah,
talk about this forever.
Me too, you're so easy to chat with.
I don't want this podcast to be a 2-hour episode. I mean, you know, they're used to listening to hour episodes, but I'm like, okay, I think we could always do a second episode, but I'm like, this could easily be a 2-hour episode.
I would love to come back if you'll have me. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. And if you want to join me inside the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, it's our community for spiritual entrepreneurs rising with purpose. And you can connect with me on Instagram at the Mermaid Light, or the link in the Sisterhood in the show notes. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and make sure that you leave a review. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with anybody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I will see you next week.
If today's episode spoke to you and you're ready to rise with support, I'd love to invite you in to the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, a sacred community for spiritual entrepreneurs to heal, grow, and lead with purpose. You can join us by using the link below in the show notes, or connecting with me over on Facebook or Instagram at The Mermaid Light. If you loved today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave a review. This helps support us reach more women who are ready to rise. Remember, your journey isn't about fitting in. It's about embracing the truth of who you are. Until next time, stay inspired, stay aligned, and keep creating your extraordinary path. This is Lauren, and you've been listening to the Enlightened Misfits podcast.